Before we get into the tutorial today, we're going to talk a little bit about cushions. We've got a boxed and welted cushion here, or corded cushion. Over here, this is boxed with no welt or knife edge. And there's a lot of other kind of cushions too. Like this cushion right here. This is a waterfall style cushion. This is commonly used when you have a pattern that you want to just waterfall across it instead of having breaks for the boxing. Today, we're gonna make a boxed and top stitched cushion. So we're gonna go to the back and show you how that's done. We've got an insert that we've already made, but it's easy enough to make a foam insert of your own. So stay tuned for another tutorial on that. Let's go to the shop. Let's start off by figuring out the dimensions of the seat area of the couch. Since this couch is a rectangle that has no curves, we can just measure and divide those numbers into how many cushions we have, which in this case is 2. We'll mark the halfway point on the deck of the sofa in the front and the back, and this is where the 2 finished cushions will meet together. Here we're going to cut out a piece of template fabric that's just larger than the area of the seat. Spread your template fabric out on the seat of the couch. Line up the front of the fabric with the front of the couch, or whatever you want the front of your cushion to be, and then smooth out all the wrinkles so that it lays flat. So after we get the front edge all straight and across the sofa and it's laying flat, we just want to get the profile of the sofa. So we want to get our chalk and go along the edge of the arm, paying attention that on the arm and the back, it's going to have curves at the top and bottom. So we could have it marked here, 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 and anywhere in between to get our mark for the edge of the cushion. What you want to do is you want to have where it's coming in on the side of the arm, you want it to line up with the flat part of the arm, so that even though there's a cavity here, it'll look like it goes perfectly to the edge here, and then that cushion can be reversible. We'll just come in with our chalk, try to just keep it straight up and down as we mark this out. You can attach it to a ruler if the arm is really slopey. And it's also a good idea to go back and look at it from straight up and down and make sure you did a good job. And try to get it lined up where, as you look down at it, your line will be right in line with the arm. So take your time and do this carefully, because it will make all the difference in your finished cushion. We're sticking just over that line here, but it's not aligning as well with that flat side. So with it aligned with that flat side, it looks like we're pretty close to our chalk marks. Finally, let's mark our center line on our template. And now we can check our center line of our template against the center line of the sofa deck that we marked earlier. Now we can cut out our template along the chalk lines that we made. And since our cushions are exact mirror images of each other, we'll just use one side and flip it over to make the face of the opposite cushion. The next step from here is to lay this pattern out on your fabric to cut your faces of your sofa. And before we outline or cut our cushion faces, we need to make sure the nap of the fabric is oriented the right way. Many fabrics have a nap, which is simply fibers that stick out that you can feel with your hand, such as a velvet. These fibers will feel a little rough one way and smooth the other way. Then where they're going smoothly, that's top to bottom. And so this should be top, this should be bottom. I'll verify it on the sofa, but that should be the way it's done. Let's lay our template on top, giving ourselves some room on all sides. On any cushion, we will always add a 1/2 inch seam allowance along every side of the template. On this cushion, we'll also be adding crowning. Before we continue, let me show you how that works on paper. So here you can see a diagram of our cushion. This is our finished cushion inside the green. We've got a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around so that we can sew that to the boxing. And then we're going to add another line for crowning. So crowning, I'm going to draw in blue, is an extra amount of fabric, a 1/2 inch of fabric that goes on the front and the sides of the cushion that allows the foam that's larger than that boxing to kind of crown out. We're going to taper in from the corner about 4 to 12 inches from the corner. We're going to come make a straight line to that 1/2 inch to get our crowning. So it's going to make a straight line like this from those corners. When you have abnormal corners like this, just do the best you can to keep that curve going. And again, we're not going to have it in the back with the zipper. And we'll show you how we're going to cut around that blue line. So be very careful and check that your chalk lines are accurate, then cut the cushion face. Take your time because this face will become the template for the next 3 faces, 2 of which you're going to flip the face over and cut so that it'll have 2 normal faces and 2 mirrored faces. We'll cut 2 this way and then we'll flip it and cut 2 the other way. And then this will become our new template for our following cushions. Now we need to figure out the boxing height. All you need to do is take the final seat height that you want, subtract the height of the deck, and you have your boxing height. Or in this case, our cushions have crowning, so we'll subtract the crowning height as well. There's an inch of crowning on top and the bottom of the cushion, so 2 inches. In this case, we want to finish the cushion at 19 inches, so our deck is 13 inches high. So 19 minus 13 minus 2 inches of crowning means our boxing will be 4 inches high. We know that our boxing needs to be 4 inches tall, so we'll add 1/2 inch to the top and the bottom and cut it out at exactly 5 inches wide. For the zipper plaques, we need to cut 2 pieces that will have a finished height of 4 inches to match the boxing. So we'll cut 2 strips of fabric that are 3 1/4 inches wide, which broken down is 2 inch finished height plus a 1/2 inch seam allowance on one side, then a 3/4 inch for a zipper allowance on the other side. On both the boxing and the zipper plaques, it may be a good idea to cut the length a bit longer because you can easily trim it down as you assemble the cushion. Finally, with all of our pieces cut, we can assemble the cushion together. I'm using a piece of tape placed 1/2 inch away from the needle as a guide. You can also add a strip of tape 2 inches to the other side as a guide on that side. First, let's sew our zipper together. Fold the 3/4 zipper allowance over and then sew it to one side of the zipper. Now let's do this with the other side of the zipper as well. And once we've finished, let's take a small piece of fabric and sew a zipper stop to the back side so that zipper has an end point and can't slide off. Now we will start to sew the boxing to one of the faces. Before you start, make sure that the nap of both pieces are going the same way. Lay the boxing face down onto the cushion face and start sewing about 4 inches away from the back corner along the 1/2 inch inseam. Using the tape to guide you is a great idea. So now as you get to that corner, slow down. You want to stop the needle exactly 1/2 inch away from the edge of the fabric. Turn the wheel until the needle is buried all the way through the piece. So we'll cut little slits in the boxing here to make it easier to turn without catching the needle. Just be careful to not cut past the 1/2 inch inseam, otherwise those cuts are going to show up in your finished cushion. With the needle still buried, rotate the face and boxing around. We'll be making a sharp 90-degree turn here to continue sewing along the next edge. At this point, I'm at the back corner of the cushion and I have some extra boxing. I'll measure 1/2 inch past the back edge and cut the rest off. Next, I'll get the piece of the zipper boxing and sew it to the end of the boxing I just trimmed. I'm going to leave about 2 to 3 inches on each side of that seam. Then I'll go back and I'll sew those last few inches and go around the corner as normal. On the last corner, I'll follow the same process as before, measure and cut the zipper and boxing, sew the boxing and zipper together, then finish sewing around the corner. The trickiest part about sewing the last part together is lining up all the corners. It's easiest to start on a corner and start sewing from there. So we will line these up. Just be careful that your corners on top and bottom of the boxing are lined up so that the cushion has nice straight corners. But this process will be almost identical to sewing the first face. If you find it to be useful, you can make some center marks and corner marks so that if you're getting off, you can just make sure that you pull it a little bit so that they come back together at the corners. That looks good. Square all the way across. And this corner looks good too. Open her up, make sure it looks good from the other side before we do our top stitching. The top stitch is a decorative element that will also sew the seam to the boxing. The top stitch foot has a groove that goes right on the seam and helps you to have a perfect spaced top stitch as you go. So that's what we're putting in here, so that instead of freehanding it, we can go with a guide. So we're going to sew the selvage toward the boxing. We're just going to follow the seams, top and bottom, sewing the inseam to the inside of the boxing. Okay, and that's the finished look with the top stitch. So we got our down envelope here, which is our cushioning that's going to go on our cushion. We're going to see how it fits. Okay, so there's our finished cushion. Turned out good. It fits the space well. It goes into the corners like we want it to. Looks a little frumpy because it's a down envelope inside, but that's what you get with down. So if you have any questions, please comment below, and we'll see you next time.